Hello everyone, welcome back to my video. Now this clip is going to show you on how do you use quadratic equation and how do you solve quadratic equation in SPM Form 4 syllabus. And we'll do quite a lot with quadratic equation, to do with quadratic equation that looks like a parabol shape. Now, if you are given an equation and it's called quadratic equation, the equation would look like y equals to ax squared plus bx plus c. Now, the reason to why it is called quadratic equation is because the highest order, the highest number for x is 2. The rest is 1 and this is x0. When x power 2, this equation is called quadratic equation, and this is the general equation for quadratic equation in the general form. A, B, and C, you need to recognize all of these three constants. You need this quite a lot, especially for SPM. For SPM, you need to know where's A, where's B, where's C. Let me show you how a parabol shape of quadratic equation look like. Now, in a Cartesian form, when I have my y-axis, x-axis, this is my positive x direction. Going up would be my positive y direction. Here would be my 0. In order for a curve, a quadratic curve to form, it should look like a U, go up, a U curve, or it's possible to be an N curve. That's curve up, come down here. A U and an N curve. Maybe I elongate this part. Okay, now, different tone of color. Alright, let me correct it. Now, one thing for sure, it is that it will have two, either is a U curve or N curve. It would intercept at the x-axis at 2 points. Here 1, here 2. This is a time when y is equals to 0. When I say y is equal to 0, okay, let me erase it off. When y equals to 0, when y is equal to 0, alpha and beta, I would define this as a root, alpha and a beta. You have two roots, alpha and beta. Whether it's a U curve or N curve, it very much depends on the value A. When your A is more than 0, this is a time when the curve at the end of it point towards the positive of y going up. When it's going up, so this would eventually, the A must be more than 0. When it's A more than 0, it will get a U curve. Whereas when your A value here, the value is a negative value, maybe negative 1. Negative 1, therefore A is less than 0. Therefore, it will be an N curve. We'll talk about the turning point in the next chapter. But for now, a U curve is defined when A is more than 0. An N curve is defined when your A is less than 0. So we get our definition clear. This is condition, don't want to confuse you. Now, this condition in order to have two different root, or you call two distinctive root, is when your b squared minus 4ac, the product of b squared minus 4ac is indeed more than 0. Yes, I think more than 0. If this condition is met, then you get two distinctive root. Likewise, if you have a curve this is positive x, 0, and y, when the curve tends to meet at only one point, it's a curve, it's a bit sharp, but it's a curve. Or maybe I draw it down, extend it. Or it looks like this. The second case, the option here, it meets at only one point. When y equals to 0, you have only one value of x. Alpha is equals to beta. There's only one value. Now, in this condition, yes, it would be your b squared minus 4ac is equals to 0. You have only one root, or it's only one solution. Some question is one solution, or two equal roots. When you have two equal roots, then b squared minus 4ac is equal to 0. And very rare cases for SPM, the final case where we have this positive y, this is 0, this is my first x. When the graph doesn't touch, doesn't intercept at the x-axis, either this or this, meaning when y equals 0, it has got no roots. No roots meaning there's no alpha, no beta. Therefore, a condition would be a b squared minus 4ac is less than 0, a negative number. When it's less than 0, negative number, then it doesn't have any roots. So you need to know whether it has two roots, two different roots. Then that's a case of b squared minus 4ac greater than 0. One root, it will be b squared minus 4ac equals 0. No root will be b squared minus 4ac less than 0. Whether u curve or n curve depends on whether the a value for the equation, in this case, where a must be more than 0, whereas if it is an n curve like this, your a must be less than 0 because it points towards the negative of y value. It helps you to remember. So once you have all the roots, you manage to get the roots, what can you do with it? You work backwards, come back to here. It helps you to form an equation indeed. If you are given roots, you should be able to find out the general equation. There are questions like, for example, a number alpha and beta is a root for an equation. Form the quadratic equation. So, in order to get the roots for an equation, forming equation from roots. In order to do that, you need alpha and beta. In order to form an equation, one thing to start with, first you need to form, says alpha plus beta. You need to find out what is the sum of root. When the sum of root, it will equal the ratio of negative b over a. If you manage to get the negative b over a, then next thing you want to do is the product of root, where the product of root is c over a. If you get 2, if you manage to get it, therefore the general equation, third one, finally, you're able to form equation. Finally, your x squared subtract with the sum of root alpha plus beta times with x plus the product alpha beta should be equal to 0, and eventually you get to form an equation from the roots you have. Next section is going to show you some example on how do you use, and the last part of this video would be how do you get those roots from the equation, from an equation. I'm going to show you on how do you use a given root to form an equation. This part is what we need. First, sum of root, negative b over a, followed by product of root, alpha beta, equals to c over a. And the last one, then you put into a general equation, and you're able to get an equation. Let's proceed to next page. Okay. A question like form an equation. Example 1 maybe. Form equation. Form a quadratic equation whose roots are alpha equals to negative 3 over 4, while beta is equals to 5. So you have 2 points. When y is 0, you have 2 roots. It could be a u curve or an n curve, it doesn't know until you form equation. To start out with, you need to get the sum of root alpha plus beta. That would be equals to negative b over a. So therefore, my negative 3 over 4 plus 5 will be equals to negative b over a. So there we will have 4, 1 over 4, 4 and a quarter will be equals to negative b over a. My negative b over a will be 17 over 4. First part, followed by the product. A product of roots is c over a. So the product of them would be negative 3 over 4. 5 will be c over a. Therefore, my c over a, to make it short, negative 15 over 4. If you have the product and you have the sum, all you need to do is you apply into the general equation. Then you need to know this, the x squared. There's no a here, please take note. Subtract with the sum of root alpha plus beta x plus the product alpha beta is equal to 0. Now this is second general equation that I stated here in the previous page. Here, x squared minus alpha beta x plus alpha times beta equals 0. The third one. If you get that, here, oops, extra page. Okay, now you're quite fit to go because now you need to substitute it into the general equation. Therefore, x squared, oopsie, a little bit too hard here, apply on the pen. X squared minus the sum of root would be 17 over 4 x plus negative 15 over 4 equals 0. You may or you may not, or normally it's a general form. This is a general form you want it. Or if you want to know what's A, what's B, what's C, you times both sides with 4 and you bring it up to be 4x squared minus 17x minus 15 will equal 0, and therefore this will be the answer to the solution, and it turns out to be a U-curve because 4 is more than 0. Next, let's solve another question. It's possible to have a question that sounds like, now example 2, my second example, you're given an equation x squared minus 2x minus 8 is equal to 0 given this equation, and you are told that it has a root alpha and beta. You are asked to form a new equation that has the root of 1 over alpha and 1 over beta. Form a new equation with alpha. Now to start with, you can't dive into here straight away to get the answer. You need to start out with what is given initially. So first of all, you were given alpha. So the sum of root alpha plus beta is equals to negative b over a, which eventually be equals to a negative, this is my b, negative to my b is negative 2b over a here is 1, so it turns out to be 2. Whereas my product is c over a. Therefore, that will be c is negative 8 over a is 1. So that will be negative 8. Please take note, this negative is from the general equation, a negative, and my b turns out to be a negative 2. That's why I have a negative 2 here. Negative, negative, I'll get positive. Here is negative because my c value is a negative number, therefore it's a negative. A, B, C. You may go back to page 1 and 2 by scroll back to the previous minutes to recognize the A and B and C. Now if you have these two relationship, you know the sum of root is 2, product is 8. Now if you want to form new equation with new roots, 1 over alpha, 1 over beta, what you can do would be, again, new form, 1 over, therefore my 1 over alpha plus sum of root, 1 over beta, new root, will be equals to, you can't start with negative b over a because you don't have a new equation. You need to work out from here. The denominator is different, so what you can do is cross multiply them. That will be beta plus alpha over alpha beta. Sum, then you get this. Therefore you have something you work out previously where the sum of them is actually 2 from here, whereas your product that you worked out earlier is negative 8, and it turns out to be negative 1 over 4. So the sum of it is negative 1, 4 for new equation. The product of 1 over alpha, use bracket instead of the times symbol, it turns out to be 1 over alpha beta. That would be simple because it's 1 over negative 8, or it's negative 1 over 8. If you have the sum of roots and product of roots, next thing is you need to substitute into the general equation for getting roots, to getting equation, which is x squared subtract sum of root x plus, it's minus product of root, product of root equals 0. So therefore, you substitute those values into here and here. Therefore, my new equation would be x squared minus sum of roots is negative 1 over 4. This is my new equation. You do not want to put this into here, but this will work out earlier. X subtract with product of roots is negative 1 over 8. To the equation equals 0. You bring up the denominator times both sides with 8, because number is 8, so therefore it turns out to be 8x squared plus 2x plus 1 is equal to 0, and therefore this would be the new equation for the new root of 1 over alpha plus 1 over beta. Next, third example would be on how I'm going to make use of the tree condition for b squared minus 4ac, where there is a real root. Real root means two different roots or repeating roots, whereas imaginary roots or no roots is when b squared minus 4ac is less than 0. Let me go to the next page. Example 3. The question should sound like the range of value of m. If you're given a quadratic equation, maybe mx squared minus 3x minus 1 is equal to 0, has real roots, has real and different roots, distinct root. You need to find the range for m. Now to start with, in order to solve this question, the keyword is here. Real, distinct root. Real means b squared minus 4ac is greater or equal to 0, but since it's distinct root, therefore it's greater than 0. Ouch, 0. Let me redraw it. Towards the brim of it, whereby b squared minus 4ac, when it's real, is greater than equals to 0. But since this is distinct root, therefore it is not equal to 0. It's only greater than 0. It's important. Find the range. Okay, To start with, it is very straightforward. What can you do? You find what's b squared, where my b is negative 3. B squared minus 4. A is my m. C is my negative 1. How do I know it's more than 0? Because the question says it's a real and distinct root, more than 0. Solve this. 9 minus positive 4m more than 0. Therefore, my m must be greater than negative 419. So that would be a quite simple solution. You may need to practice more on it. And I hope I can help you out with that. You may always approach your tutor at school or in your high school for more questions on it. Next, I'm going to show you on how do you find those roots when you are given an equation. Let me go to the next page. Specifically for SPM, they are basically 3, not 2, 3 way to get the roots. Finding of roots from a given equation. Last part for this chapter is to find the roots for an equation, for a quadratic equation, There are 3 ways to get it. First method, you call it a factorization. In factorization, in order to find roots, say you were given an equation like x squared minus maybe 3x plus 2. In order to find roots is when y is equal to 0. When y is 0, what's the root? So by using factorization, this is an equation will therefore be equals to 0. When it's equal to 0 is a time when it intersects at your x-axis. What is this 2 value? When y is 0, what's the x value? So how to get it by factorization? You need to follow step by step. Of course, you may use a calculator, but there are times when it's very time consuming if you want to put in a calculator. So, but yet I will still show you. I hope I have time to show you how to use a calculator. I mean to figure out a way how to show you on here. Now for factorization for an equation, first of all you need to have 2 brackets, open up 2. In order to get x squared, it will be x times with an x. X times with x squared is positive number. Next would be the second number, 2. In order to get 2, it will be either 1 times 2, 2 times 1. That's the only possibility. 1 times 2, 2 times 1. Either way, 1 times 2 first, maybe. I want 1 times 2. And the sum of it, you get negative 3. And the product, you get plus 2. So the only way is when a negative 1 times negative 2, you get positive 2. And negative x plus negative 2x, you get negative 3x. So this is what you have. And in order to get the roots, there will be you equate it to 0. The product of 1 and the product here you get 0. It will be either x minus 1 is equal to 0 or x minus 2 is equal to 0. Eventually, therefore, your x is 1 or x is 2. This one will be 1 and this one here will be 2. Factorization is easy. For our next method, will be a little bit complicated, but it's a very powerful method that you need to use in chapter 3. So I'm going to show it here now instead of later. Now, next method is called completing the square. Penyempurnaan kuasa dua. Completing the square. Well, this method could sound a little bit complicated, but it's a very powerful method, especially in getting the information, like for example the turning point. Same equation says we have x squared minus 3x plus 2 equals 0. By using completing square method, how to get the roots? Same method. Now you need to modify this equation a little bit. How you do it is you copy the original x squared, then you plus a factor or number, you plus a b over 2. This is the b number. So this is a b over 2. You plus, you square it, and then you subtract. So you get nothing. This is a rule to solve squared. And then you copy the remainder. What you have here is what you have here plus 2 equals 0. You didn't change anything. You just add something and you subtract something. It's basically getting the same thing. What next would be interesting, because all you need to do is to copy whatever here. You expand it, you will get x minus 3 over 2 square, and then you subtract 9 over 4 and plus 2. Where is it? This missing term, this term and this term. Where is this missing term? If you were to expand here, you get to here. And then equals to 0. If you take some time to practice and you solve this part here, would be x minus 3 over 2. I know it's not in chapter 2, especially this part, but it would be nice if you learn it now. If you equate to 0, you solve it, x minus 3 over 2 equals to 1 over 4. Bring it over. So x minus 3 over 2, that would be square root of 1 over 4 is plus or minus 1 over 2. So therefore, your x value could be either a positive 1 over 2 plus 3 over 2, or your x could be negative 1 over 2 plus 3 over 2, and it turns out to be x equals to 4 over 2 is 2, or x is 2 over 2 is 1. That would be a little bit tough in the middle. Let's say here is the important part. You take some time maybe to digest this part. You plus something, You plus the b over 2, this is the b over 2. You subtract the b over 2. This line. Next line, all you need to do is copy whatever inside here, plus the one with the plus, and you copy whatever here, bring it down here. And then you solve with the negative, will be here, negative with the number. This number. You solve it equal to 0, then you get the same root. Now, the last one. The last method would be equation. By using equation, normally the question sounds like your answer, express your root or answer in 2 decimal places. When they ask for decimal places, the roots in decimal places, that's the key word actually. Decimal places, therefore, is by using of equation. By using equation. There's an equation to get roots. When you manage to get an equation expressed in general form, ax squared plus bx plus c, and you want to look for roots, therefore it's equal to 0. When x, what's the x value when y goes 0? If that would happen, and the question says express your answer in 2 or 3 decimal places, that will be using equation, and the equation of x would therefore be equals to negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. Straight away, you put into calculator, you get the answer. Now previously we used the previous equation. We have x squared minus 3x plus 2. You use the same equation, you get the same answer of 1 and 2. So previously we have equation says x squared minus 3x plus 2. If I want to find roots, then they will equal to 0. If I want to use equation to solve it, yes, therefore the answer straight away it will be x equals to a negative b, so I will be a negative b plus or minus, you're going to have 2 roots because it's a 2, therefore you have 2 roots. Square root of b squared is negative 3 squared minus 4, my a is 1, c is 2. A is 1, c is positive 2. Square root whole thing over 2a, 2 times 1. If you solve this equation, therefore my x will be equals to 3, negative negative, I'll get 3, plus or minus square root, negative 3 is 9, 9 minus 8. This is 9 minus 8, 9. Subtract 8 is 1, square root of 1. So square root of 1 is 1, 2. So therefore that will be 3 plus or minus 1 over 2. Therefore, my answer straight away will be equals to 3 plus 1 is 4. 4 divided by 2 is 2. Or x is equals to 3 minus 1. 3 minus 1 is 2. 2 over 2 will be 1. You get the same results. This is basically what you will learn in chapter 2, form 4 for NMATS. And it should be sufficient to prepare you for SPM if you have done enough practice on this. In terms of using calculator, well, you need to look into your menu. I hope that I can include a video presentation of how do you use calculator of Casio FX570 MS. model. For the method in putting those values into a calculator. I hope you like my video. Press on the like button. The number of likes would really encourage me to make more videos.